Hi everyone, my name is Miss Amanda, and today I'm going to be reading a story to you. So find a comfy place to sit down, maybe a blanket, and then we're going to get started. Today we're going to be reading from a treasury of children's literature, The Emperor's New Clothes. There once was an emperor who loved clothes more than anything else. Unlike other emperors, he cared nothing for his soldiers or dancing or the theater. The only thing that made him truly happy was a new suit of clothes. He had a different outfit for every hour of the day, and whenever anyone asked where the emperor was, the reply was almost always, "He is in his dressing room." Now, one day, two swindlers arrived at the city where this emperor lived. Having heard how much the emperor loved clothes, they let it be known that they were weavers and that the cloth they wove was the finest in the world. Not only were the colors and patterns extraordinarily beautiful, but the clothes made of this cloth had the remarkable quality of being invisible to anyone who was a fool or unfit for the office he or she held. Soon the emperor heard about this amazing cloth. It must be wonderful stuff indeed, he thought. Why, if I had a suit made of it, I should learn which of my ministers were unfit for their positions. I should know who is clever and who is not. I must order a suit of this wonderful cloth at once. So he summoned the swindlers to his palace that very day, ordered them to begin work at once, and paid them with a big bag of gold. The two men set up their looms in a large room in the palace. They ordered the finest silk threads. Then they pretended to settle down to work. But actually, they only hid the thread and did nothing at all. After a time, they called for more silk and threads of silver and gold. Now they pretended to work even harder, and were seen bending over their empty looms late into the night. "I wonder how the cloth is coming," the emperor thought one day. Then he remembered that the cloth would be invisible to anyone who was unfit for his office, and that made him rather uneasy. Of course, he was sure that he was fit to be emperor, but even so, it might be better to have someone else look at it first. "I'll send my honest old minister to see the weavers," the emperor decided. "He is certainly not a fool, and he knows his office better than anyone in the land." So the trusted old minister went to the room where the swindlers sat pretending to weave their wonderful cloth. "Good heavens!" the minister thought when he entered and saw the empty looms. He opened his eyes wide, and then even wider, but still he could see nothing. The swindlers begged him to come closer. Pointing at their looms, they asked him about the marvelous colors and the splendid pattern. The minister did not know what to say. "Can it be that I am really a fool?" he thought. "I never would have believed it. Or could I be unfit for my office? That would be dreadful. I must not let the emperor know this." "Have you nothing to say?" the swindlers asked him. "Oh, yes," replied the minister. "I am just so overwhelmed. You understand. This is the most wonderful cloth I have ever seen. What an exquisite pattern! What brilliant colors! I will tell the emperor at once." "We were sure you would like it," the swindlers replied. Then they described the colors and the pattern to him. The old minister listened closely so he would be able to repeat everything to the emperor. The swindlers then asked for more silk and more thread of gold and silver. As before, they hid all this away so that not a single thread came near their looms, yet they pretended to work day and night. After a while, the emperor decided to see again how the cloth was coming. It must be nearly finished by now, he thought. This time he sent his most honest courtier to have a look at it. Like the minister before him, the courtier opened his eyes wide, and then wider. But he, too, could see nothing, for, of course, there was nothing to see. I am sure I am no fool, the courtier thought. Can it be that I do not deserve the position I hold? What am I to do? I cannot possibly let the emperor know this. So, like the minister before him, he praised the beautiful colors and intricate pattern. I have never seen anything to compare it with, he told the emperor. Soon everyone in the city could talk of nothing but the marvelous cloth. At last the emperor decided he must see it for himself. Surrounded by his courtiers, he went to the room where the two swindlers labored over their empty looms. Is it not exquisite? Said the minister and the courtier who had been there before. What splendid colors! What an amazing pattern! Then they pointed at the empty looms, certain that all the others could see the wonderful cloth. The emperor put on his spectacles. Then he stared and stared. How can this be? He thought. I can see nothing. Oh, this is the worst thing that has ever happened to me. Can it be that I am a fool or unfit to be emperor? I must never breathe a word of this. I must thank you, he said out loud, turning to the weavers with a gracious smile. I have never seen such cloth in all my life. The emperor's courtiers, who like him could see nothing, all agreed. The cloth, they said, was exquisite, magnificent, and surely the most beautiful in all the world. Then they told the emperor he must order a suit made of it at once to wear at the great procession that was soon to take place. Everyone nodded and clapped enthusiastically. The emperor appointed the two swindlers imperial weavers to the court and gave them each a gold medal. The night before the procession, the two swindlers burned their candles all night. Everyone could see that they were hard at work finishing the emperor's new suit. They cut through the air with their scissors and stitched with needles without any thread. When morning came, they announced, "The emperor's new suit is ready." The emperor, followed by his court, went to the swindler's workroom. When the emperor and his courtiers strode in, the swindlers held up their arms as if holding something and said, "Look, here is the jacket," and "Look, here are the trousers," and "Look, here is the waistcoat," and "Here is the elegant train. Each one is as light as a feather, so that one does not feel one is wearing anything at all. That's the real beauty of these clothes." "Yes, indeed," all the courtiers agreed. "Now, if your majesty would please take off your clothes," the swindlers went on, "we will dress you in your new suit." They led the emperor to a large looking-glass. After he had undressed, the swindlers pretended to put on his new suit piece by piece, while the emperor studied his reflection from all sides. "How well these new clothes suit you," everyone cried. "What a perfect fit! That pattern! Those colors! Never have you worn anything so magnificent." It was time for the procession to begin. The servants, who were to carry the train, now stepped behind the emperor. They lifted their hands as though they were holding something. After all, they did not want to appear to be fools or, worse still, unfit for their positions. Then the emperor began marching at the head of the great procession right through the city. People lined the streets and leaned out of windows to watch, and when they saw him pass, they all cried, "Isn't the emperor's new suit magnificent? What a gorgeous train! What colors! What a pattern!" No one dared admit that he could see nothing, for then his neighbors would know he was a fool or unfit for his position, and that would be dreadful. Never had any clothes of the emperor's been so admired. At last a child peered through the crowd and cried, "But the emperor has no clothes!" The mother tried to hush the child, but then she looked again. "Oh no," she said. "Can it be true?" Everyone began to whisper what the child had said. Then they all began to cry out together, "But the emperor has no clothes!" The emperor heard them, and his ears turned bright red. He knew that they were right, but there was nothing he could do. And so the emperor lifted his head higher still and kept on walking. Even if he had no clothes, he would still carry himself as an emperor should, and his servants followed behind him, looking even more dignified than before, carrying in their hands a train that did not exist.